Welcome to A Sex Worker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'm your host, Parker Westwood. I'm really excited about today's episode. It's actually going to be 2 episodes because this interview was incredibly lengthy in a wonderful way, and I didn't want to cut so much of the really good, vulnerable material. Today we get to dive into my interview with Master Joshua, based out of New York. This was an interview in the first batch that I did, and I haven't posted it yet because I couldn't figure out how to cut it down to size. So I just decided not to, and to make it a 2-part situation. So this episode is going to cover the first half of our conversation, and then the second episode will be the other half of our conversation. We cover so much material, so don't worry, both episodes are going to be jam-packed full of stuff. I think you're going to like both of them. In this first half of our conversation, Master Joshua and I talk about honorifics and identity, spirituality and BDSM, and the importance of mentorship, among many other things. So I hope you are ready for a ride. Master Joshua is an incredible storyteller. There's quite a bit of stories throughout the course of this conversation. So I hope you all enjoy it. I should say beforehand, there's a few trigger warnings. We do talk about the master-slave dynamic a bit. We also talk about addiction briefly, and there's mention of childhood trauma. This interview was one of the first interviews that I did. I was still kind of figuring out how I wanted my interviews to go. I'm really grateful that this one was more freeform. It allowed for us to flow into different topics, and it felt right. And I tend to go with what feels right. So, there. So here we go. This is the first half of my conversation with Master Joshua. Thank you, Master Joshua, for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much, Parker. I'm really honored to have this conversation with you. We've had a couple chats before, and it's really incredible connecting with you.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have it on the air and share it with everybody else. So thank you for being willing. I normally start with people, with the guests introducing themselves, however they would like to be introduced. So if you'd like to go ahead.
So my name is Master Joshua. I'm out of New York City. I go by he, him when I'm representing a more masculine energy. I go by she, her, or goddess or mistress when I'm in my more feminine expression. I am able-bodied by POC. I'm of Latinx heritage and culturally from New York City. I was born in Miami, but my identity is New York.
Very much so. And we had a little conversation before, and I'd love to touch on it, about your honorific and how you settled on Master Joshua. If you wouldn't, yeah.
So the title Master Joshua, Master, right? There's a lot of history around the title, the label Master. I'm of the mind frame that honorifics are something that's earned through community as opposed to something self-titled, right? Because in reality, anyone can call themselves anything they want, right? So when you carry an honorific, there's expectations of knowledge to go with it, right? And master, when someone hears that, it's like, you better know your shit. Good, bad, or indifferent. People are allowed to create whatever identities or use whatever honorifics they so choose. And, there's something to be said about that too, right? If it's something that helps a person get into their headspace, absolutely. As long as there's a conversation around the honorifics, right? What does it mean to that person? If I meet someone who introduces themselves as insert honorific, insert name, it's a turnoff for me, right? So unless I'm in some high protocol environment, I will introduce myself as Joshua, right? Hi, my name is Joshua. I'm known as Master Joshua in the community, but please call me Joshua, right? It's like, let me earn the honorific. Let me earn the title. So and it's also like for marketing, right? I've put a lot of time into learning the trade, experiencing the lifestyle, and committing to it, right? I'm submissive to the BDSM lifestyle and the culture behind it, right?
Right. I like the way you put that.
Because I have a leather flag that I wear on my right side, and the right side identifies as submissive side.
Oh.
And with the flagging, right, you wear on the left. I'm into a top. as the bottom.
Right. It's so, like the lesbian hanky code. Yeah.
Yeah, the hanky code. Yeah. And so, I have a leather pride flag that I have, and I wear it on my right. And one, I just liked how it felt. So my left or my right. I haven't worn it in a while because I haven't, with COVID and all.
Yeah.
It's hard to feel it, right? To behave and to express and to live by a code is one thing, but to feel the desire to dress and express, it's really drawn out a lot of me, right? I wore full leather for the first time yesterday in months, and that was for a client meet. Right? Yeah. It's been tough trying to express it, trying to be in the headspace to express it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think for a lot of people, even just like taking a shower during COVID has been hard. So, yeah.
Very much.
Yeah.
Very much. So I was asked, why do you wear it on that side? And forever it was because it felt good until I sat with it, and I remembered the tradition of top, bottom, left, right, and it resonated with me. The way I live is by this code that I've learned and developed and personally developed and integrated within my own lifestyle of BDSM foundation, right? Integrity, open communication, honesty, respect, equality, things that are important for me. So over time, Master was to represent the investment that I've made through informing and educating myself and paying it forward on a community level and a professional level. As time passed, I came across a male who, with my then partner, we were co-topping, and the honorific came up, and he says, "I don't call another man master." And because I serve no man, he said. And I sat with that. This was about 5 years ago. And I sat with that. And I personally don't feel the master over anyone, right? Power exchange relationships are difficult for me because one is a huge investment, right? And with where I have life going, where I've had it going with my own personal growth and professional development, it's hard to maintain someone else's life the way a power exchange commitment is, in my view. Right? So I don't enjoy power exchanges, relationships. Are they necessary? Absolutely. I have a slave now, but there's a commitment to it, right? There's a known commitment to our dynamic that isn't casual. So I sat there with him and I said, well, I'm not here to be your master, right? That's not my approach to it. I said, for me, it's more of a master student than it is a master submissive or master slave.
Right.
And there is a power exchange in that, right? But it's not that I own you. It's that I've walked this path and I want to help you walk it for yourself too. I want to walk with you. It became a master student type of power exchange relation, how I associate my master in my honorific in my name to reflect my relationships with my friends, with my clients, with the community, and in my relationships.
I think that's
aside from the master slave.
Right. Yes. I think that's so important because I've told you this before, but I'm going to say it again for the podcast, that it's really important to have that master of a skill versus master over someone. I think especially just with the fraught history of slavery in America, it just like brings that up for a lot of people, or it should bring it up for most people, I think. And I had told you before, I had a submissive call me master. And I really loved the gender fuck of it instead of
Yes.
mistress. It just like doesn't carry the same oomph. But then I like got really uncomfortable with it once I like had a moment to sit with it. I was like, oh, this feels wrong for some reason. But then after talking with you, I'm like, oh, it could just be how you look at it too, like master in a skill or master of a
Yeah.
skill rather than master over someone.
Even with the master slave role power exchange dynamic, the idea is personal growth, right?
Right.
I took that role over my submissive now slave with the intent of helping her find more concrete footing in her life.
Mm.
There's a lot of variables that go into the relationship that I have to pick the right words for this. The trajectory that her journey was going
Mm-hmm.
wasn't I wasn't happy about it, and she was going to crash and burn.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a very complicated family situation. Not very complicated, but it's complicated enough.
Right.
And I didn't want to see that ruined, so I offered my guidance,
Mm-hmm.
my lead for her follow to help bring her back onto her road, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to take her off the road of self-destruction, I should say. And that requires a certain investment from her and from me. So yeah, it's even the ownership. It's hard for me. I mean, while we're playing and stuff, I say things to her, who you belong to and all that stuff. But
Of course, yeah, because that's
you
just
know,
fun.
at the end of the day, I mean, there is a level of commitment and ownership both ways, right? Because she
Mm-hmm.
has me as much as I have her. If I can make her a better person, she can help me become a better person. Right? So it
Absolutely, it's
feeds
not a
itself.
one-way street for sure.
It's not a one-way street.
And this is just bringing us right into, we'll get to a day in the life of Master Joshua in a bit, but I think that this is a really good time to kind of ease into basically the reason why you and I first started to talk. It was like when we first met, you were on a kink panel at the Why Not conference. And it was my first time attending. And you said something about your BDSM journey and having to experience what it's like to be a sub in order to understand how you are guiding people on their own journey. And I really want to just like touch back on that conversation because it was so fantastic and you were so insightful. So if we could talk a bit about your journey and like touching into your own submissive side in order to do your work as the guide that you see yourself as in your work.
Absolutely, I'd love to. It's actually it's something that I get better talking at the more I talk about it. Right?
Cool.
It's something that hasn't been much of a conversation, more so something that I've observed myself going through. So when I get an opportunity to sit and talk about it, it helps me flesh it out so I can help explain it better too. So thank you for this opportunity.
So happy to help.
So when I came into the lifestyle, I can't even say the lifestyle. When I started feeling powerless over an addiction. Some people believe in sex addiction, some people don't. I do, and I believe that I am a sex addict, and it controlled my life for many years. I'm one of those statistical parents of children with multiple women, right? I've crashed and burned numerous relationships for decisions I've made around sex, and it was powerless, right? I was powerless. So one of the things I wanted to gain was power over myself and power in my relationships. When I was 18, I had my first child, and the relationship soured and tanked really quick. And through the court system, this is back in the 90s, fathers had to fight to prove their value, right? And it hasn't changed. It's changed, but it hasn't changed drastically today. To go through that system, it's very disempowering and very isolating.
I believe it.
And for a lot of men who experience it, it's very angering, and it creates a level of PTSD that brings a negativity towards the mothers of our children, in turn creating a distaste towards women, right? A hate towards women, because why? Wow, this is the first time I'm actually getting to speak about this like this.
Yeah.
Why do I have to continue proving I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing at the same time she doesn't have to do anything, right? And I'm putting air quotes because
Yeah.
this is how it feels,
Right.
right? So time goes on, and from 18 to my early 20s, I have a resentment towards women,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also not malicious, right? So
Mm-hmm.
how do I achieve power over my relationships with women? And I think the first sign of that was when I was able to say no for sex,
Yeah.
right? When I turned down sex for the first time, that was so powerful, right? Because when does a man ever say no to a woman? Again, air quotes.
Right.
Culturally, in the society and culture that I grew up in, your masculinity and manhood is defined by the amount of sex you have,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is feeding itself, and I'm learning and I'm building a better understanding of myself and why, right?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm excited to hear this back because this is my first time putting these pieces together like this.
Yeah. And it's fascinating. Also, the idea that the bureaucratic system feeds into the hate of women, right?
It's
Yeah.
easily,
Mm-hmm.
right? So time passes, and I've always enjoyed kinkier things,
Mm-hmm.
curiosity, always, right?
Yeah.
Since I was a kid playing doctor with my neighbor, right?
Yep.
5 years old, right? This stuff starts early. It's not something that you turn 21 and you're like, oh my God, I have a fetish, right?
Right.
This is something that's rooted, that if you look back, and it's not bad, and it's not malicious, and it's not there's no malintent. This is genuine primal curiosity that we have as human beings,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Touch, sensation, stimulation, right? It feels good. I'm curious why, and why does the body have this, and why does the body do that,
Yeah.
right? So time progressed, and I was engaging, right? And I'm out there, and I'm learning what power exchange is by dominating the sexual journey of the relationships, right? Because I believe in equality, and I've always culturally, right, as a Latinx male, the way we are, and then there's the whole umbrella of that too, right? Machismo and Latino, and
Mm-hmm.
who does what and how do you treat. My mother and my grandmother left, and my sister left huge impressions in my life on how I treat women and the respect that I give. Right,
Mm-hmm.
my sister, I love my sister to the end of the world. She's my savior and my abuser. Right, the only one
Right.
that can beat him up is me. Right,
Right. Yes.
uh, but we're tight, like a tight bond. So
Mm-hmm.
I've always led or engaged in my relationships with a level of equality and open and communication. I can't even say open communication because that shit takes years to learn.
No
Right,
shit.
to be able to be honest. Right, because we're not honest people from the get.
Right.
Uh,
Preach.
and I believe we're conditioned that way, right? Anyway, so as I grew and as I matured in my relationships, I cheated, I lied, I cheated some more, and I lied because sex was still my focus. Right, now that I have the power of yes and no, now I can choose who I engage with. Right, so if I want, I will go out and get. It's empowering, right, to understand the chemistry of people you connect with.
Yeah.
So this was in my early to late 20s. Um, I started to get involved in the internet exploded, right? And I saw a million things. I saw fisting for the first time. I was like, there's no way that's real. And sounding and a lot of crazy, air quotes, crazy stuff that I was curious about because
Yeah.
the body cannot do that. So the doors open, and I start to look for these things. And in the mid 2000s, late 2000s, mid to late 2000s, I find the community here in New York, and I start to come out and connect with people in the community. In my time out there, this is where I start learning about communication being the key. If I can connect with a person and I can build the trust, if I can focus on the relationship, the play will be there. I started connecting with different types of people within the community. And when I could connect with them, I was connecting with them on things that weren't kink related, like socioeconomics, who we are and where we're from, period. Right. Sitting down and talking and getting to know people, that is when things started to become even more apparent, right? That if you sit and you listen to someone and you share and you become vulnerable, these relationships build, and they build fast, and they build strong, right?
Absolutely.
On the same note, this can be weaponized too, right? Because you sit and you watch how easily this can be manipulated because of the romanticizing of what it is, right?
Yes.
You get someone out there who knows the lingo, who has bad intent, and it's easy for them, right? Because there is a flavor to this, there is a flow to this that it's observable, and you can learn it, and you can integrate it into who you are and continue your exploration from that. What you do with it is important, right? It's the whole great power, great responsibility thing.
Yes.
Right? Spider-Man, right? So it's like
these I know it's from RuPaul, but that's
these connections and opportunities are very real. What are we going to do with it? As I continue growing, and as I continue fucking up my relationships, and as I continue not being truthful, right? At this point, I can't say lying, because what I'm learning through this is integrity, right? Just be truthful. And it's not, again, not the easiest thing in the world. It's simple, but it's not the easiest thing in the world.
No, not
right?
at all.
So that's something that you have to put effort into, is what does integrity mean, right? It doesn't just mean not lying. It also means being honest with yourself, right? And not omitting, and being transparent, right? So these tools I started working on sharpening them, right? Because we know how to do it. We just have to create the environment and the support for ourselves that if we do it, good, bad, or indifferent, it's going to change our lives for the better, right? And I started to notice this pattern, almost like watching karma work, right? If you do what's right, right will come back, right? Knowing that you have a debt to work off too, right? Of 35 years, right? Of karma that you're trying to fix throughout this entire process, right? I believe in karma, so it's like, I believe the trials and tribulations that I go through are payment for the past or earning for the future. Right? So it's like, it's a fucking headache.
It's a helpful way to look at it, though. It makes it maybe tolerable in the moment.
Right. First time I said that about the future, because like I pray and I ask for the answers to come. I ask for the work to present itself. I don't ask it for it to be easy. Right. And I notice that every time I say it, because something difficult always comes, and I'm like, shit, why didn't I ask for it to be easier? Right? But I like earning the stripes, right?
Yep.
Not so much. But
we're here for a little pain.
Earning them. I don't want to say I like it, but I understand it.
Right.
So time continues, and I'm sharpening these skills, and I have a dynamic a relationship that I just entered a year ago, a little over a year ago, actually. Our anniversary is just passed last month.
Oh, wonderful.
And I told her, I said, she's the first adult relationship I'm in as an adult, right? Because we're not for adults in our fucking 20s, right? We're just learning how to change our underwear, right? After messing them.
Oh my God, for real though.
Our 30s, we're starting to learn how to walk, but we're still putting our fingers in outlets and eating stuff we shouldn't be eating, right?
I have so many outlets to look forward to.
And then our 40s, it's like I feel like an adult. Like, so this is what it feels like, right? I think mentorship is huge. I have 4 kids. I have a 20, shit, I got to check my tattoos for ages. I have a 22-year-old, a 23-year-old, a 22-year-old, a 15 and a 14-year-old.
Wow.
And my second I've been talking with her recently about the importance of mentorship or someone older than you to talk with, right? That isn't that doesn't necessarily have to be family, but
Yeah.
someone who has walked and experienced life to help you, right? Ask the questions and a platform for you to bounce things off of or get some constructive criticism so that we don't have to continuously make the same mistakes, or at least without guidance to navigate them, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
As long as you're willing to ask. Mm-hmm.
yeah, right. It's like, that's why I love when people reach out to me. Oh man, Joshua, like on social media, I get people that ask me questions about, especially around self-identification,
Mm.
right? It's like, this is what I heard. Is this true? It's like my youngest daughter, who's 14, I asked her about what type of sexual education are you getting? Sex education are you getting? And she said,
Oof.
well, once in the sixth grade, they taught us about the science behind baby making, right? And it's like,
Right.
that's nothing. Like, that's technical shit. If we were observing human beings from a technical standpoint, how lame would we be, right? We'd be
Right.
like destructive, cancerous things until we can understand the emotions behind it, right? So one of the first things I asked her was, so how do you identify, right? So, something no one's asked her before.
Oh my
And
God.
she goes, well, I like boys, but she's also a jock, right? So she
Mm-hmm.
carries a lot of masculine energy. And she goes, I like boys, but in the sixth grade, this one girl told me I'm a lesbian because of the way I walk. So I said, listen, child, don't let anyone decide or label you for who you are or who you love. I explained to her about my gender identity. I'm sorry, sexual orientation, pansexual for the record, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can go into the sapiosexual and all that, like more defined stuff, but I connect with people. You know,
Mm-hmm.
my desire is the individual in front of me, regardless of your gender, right? If we have a chemistry that works and it develops into something a lot more intimate, I'm all for it, right? Because I love you as a person by that point, right? So
Absolutely.
let's share time and space and see how nasty you can get.
Yes.
Right. So, supporting her in her questions and her journeys hugely important for me because I didn't have that as a kid, right? I had dare, which was stupid, right?
It's awful.
Uh, they had sex abstinence programs, right? And then they started giving out condoms in school, which I had a pocket full of them. But no one told us about relationship investment.
Mhm.
No one told us about introspection and finding peace with yourself, at least in the beginning, right? Being okay with where you're at.
Yeah.
Right? And then you have peer pressure and all that shit. It's like, it's a recipe for disaster. Why aren't we talking to our kids about it? Why aren't we normalizing the conversation?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So I think mentorship is huge. If I had someone who could have guided me in the first, I mean, just in fucking life, but
Mm-hmm.
even when I made it out to the community, I think it helps. Mentorship's a huge deal.
Do you see your role as master or dom as a mentor?
Yes, I absolutely feel uh, that my role has developed into a mentorship role in all facets, personal, professional, romantic. Because I've got the experience, I create the space for others to have their own experiences and teach them what it's like to have a safe space so that they can recreate it for themselves and move forward with it. In this process, I've come across many masters and mistresses, right, who like to dish out punishment without understanding the mental, spiritual, psychological effects, physical effects that it has on the person,
Yes.
right? And one of the first things I learned in martial arts, right, is I have to know how it's going to feel to get hit to see how this stuff works, right? I've studied martial arts for a number of years, and my approach is also very ritualistic, martial arts based. I have a warrior, way of the warrior type of mentality, way of the warrior spirit, right? Do
Yeah.
no harm, but carry a big stick type of thing, right?
Yes.
uh, so um, I believe in order for me to teach something, I have to have learned it,
Mm-hmm.
right? In order for me to teach something, I have to have experienced it. Now you have people who say, well, I'm a master, I'm a male, you can't vaginally fist me, so how can I experience it? It's like, relax. It's the formula behind it, right? It's the idea. If I'm going to put you through something, I should at least know what you're experiencing, what you're experiencing in it, even if it's boiled down to the psychological mind frame that you're in of submission, right? How do I know what submission feels like? And how do I know where you're at if I don't know it? If I don't know what commitment and faith is and trust, how do I ask someone to give it to me? Right? I don't know what that means to give to someone. How am I going to ask for someone to give it to me? Right? So if we removed all the fetishes, right? Submission as a mind frame, working and investing your time into a purpose greater than yourself, right? Understand what service means and understand what it means to give someone from yourself, right? Before asking from someone else.
Yes.
Right? Go fucking wait tables before you go out to eat and you're a dickhead with a wait staff.
And if you
right?
aren't going to wait tables, make sure you tip so much more.
Right? I mean, we can boil it down to that, right? It's like, don't bitch about service if you never waited tables and know what it means to stand on your feet 10 hours a day.
Absolutely, right? Yes.
Circumstantially, right now, if they fucked up my meal and the chicken and waffles come out cold and my drink's flat, and it's like
know when to complain. Just know when to,
yeah, just know, right? So my understanding of that led me to, I started with bottoming, right? Because submission for me doesn't come easy. Through my time invested in learning domination, about submission, topping and bottoming, and all the ins and outs of this lifestyle, submission isn't something that comes easy, right? I have to have complete confidence in the actions of the person that's going to be handling my body. If I don't, I can't shut it off. It's like I'm observing. I can't not, right? So you have to earn my trust. And I hate to put it that way, but you have to earn my trust in the sense that you've invested the time in learning what you're about to do to me.
Yeah.
If I don't feel that confidence, submission isn't coming.
Absolutely not.
I'll bottom, but I can't be submissive.
Yeah.
Right. I can't let it go. So bottoming, I've done almost everything. I have to think about what I haven't done that I've done to others. I mean, hook suspension, but I haven't done hook suspension to anyone.
Right.
There's one out there. I know there's one because we laughed about it when it came up, but it's the basic understanding of, right? I have to know what you're experiencing psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, and physically if I want to really be a part with you. Absolutely. Right? Now you have the people who just go through the actions and it's just the motions, right? Oh, you like to be flogged, next, Right. It's not the same thing, right? So as a bottom, during times of stress and anxiety, I like to be heavily flogged, heavily flogged, like beat me. So I can get that energy out of me. If I had known this 20 years ago, I'd have half the tattoos I have now, right? Because I realized that my tattoo work was my outlet. Yes. For years, right? Now I got like 80% of my body covered. That's and I was so like, relatable. I could have just done this with flogging. It's something I joke about now, but tattoos hurt. I'm the biggest, softest, biggest crybaby in the world. So talking with new people in the community, I tried to plant this seed of experiencing what the submissive or the bottom is going to go through so you can empathize with them, right? So you can relate and understand what they're experiencing. So you know that you don't go 100 miles per hour right off the bat because that shit hurts. And because look at your back, right? It's like, ouch, maybe I was doing this wrong. I was working MAL with a booth called thekinkshop.com. They actually sponsor a lot of the stuff that I've done. And they have a little zapper, right? And it's one of those copper little mini cattle prods.
Oh, yeah.
And they have a few ways to use them. One, it's a loud pop and it's not really painful, but it's scary. And then there's other ways that fucking hurt, right? So I know this because I have it and I've used it on myself. And I hate it, right? It hurts.
Yeah.
So we're at the booth and we're vending. And these little kids come over. And I say kids because they're in their 20s, right? Acting like fucking jackasses. And this one kid picks it up and he starts chasing his friend with it and he pops him with it. And I grab him by the arm and I snatch the toy out of his hand and I address him firmly. I spoke about the importance of understanding what the person is experiencing beforehand. And I asked him if he really wanted to try it. And it created a scene to where he apologized and he ended up trying the zapper and realized how painful it was and apologized to the kid right away. It's like, oh my God, I didn't realize. Well, yeah, motherfucker, like you don't play around with this stuff. In New York, the kink community isn't fully integrated, right? You have the pansexual community, you have the gay community, and then you have the queer community. Right? The integration is loose, right? So sometimes when I go out to gay bars with boys that are either my leather family that I play with, there would be people who would come and pick up a toy and swing it at the submissive that I'm topping in the middle of my scene. And it's like, people, like, you have to reach out and touch someone to prove a point. It's like, don't put your hands on somebody. Right? This is what's going to happen if you do this again. Right? I love those types of swift justices, swift lessons, but you don't know what the person's experiencing, right? Like, let's say if the person was averse to being spanked because of childhood trauma, right? And someone comes out and spanks them on the ass just out of the blue, it's like, what are we doing here, right? So understanding the roles of top and bottom and what we experience in both of them is hugely important for me.
Not to mention consent.
Oh, well, yeah. Consent being the overall 100% informed consent being the key, right?
Yes.
So as time progressed in my domination, my lifestyle experience on the top and dominant side, my window for trust shrunk for me engaging from a submissive side, because things refined more and more, and people became less and less able to fulfill the level of qualification, air quotes, that I need in order for me to be submissive, right? And it's not just technical things,
right?
It revolves heavily around self-confidence, right? I can be submissive to someone who is sure, not false surety, but who has invested the time and is sure in their actions with my body, right? Or, right, even in the sense of, if I tell you go, run with it, don't doubt yourself and don't doubt what I'm telling you, run with it, right? Like, particularly fisting. I love being fisted. It's a huge thing for me.
Awesome.
If I say green light, fucking don't doubt yourself. In a moment like this, I don't need you to doubt. I need you to push.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're breaking through boundaries, and like, I need confidence, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm in my space of fear, right? We're at the edges of my boundaries. Uncertainty, right? Tell me things are okay. Walk me through it.
Move forward with certainty.
Right? As a dominant, as a strong-willed submissive male, right? Because I'm identified as a dominant, right? I think men are innately submissive, right? Queens are dominants, right? Knights are warriors who are submissive to their queens. Submission doesn't mean weakness, right? I like to get shit done, and I'm very able to get things done. I need a leader who can point in the direction, because I'm a warrior. I lead, but after leading for X amount of time, I don't want to lead over time. Like, I just want to put the shit down and fucking just follow direction sometimes. Everybody wants that break.
Yes.
Right. So as time progressed, my trust window shrank. I'm learning more about myself and what dominance and submission mean to me. But my bottom experiences widen, right? Because I'm training people in how to top and how to use these instruments effectively. About 4 years ago, is when the desire for submission starts to creep and it starts to grow. It comes in waves, right? It's like it swells and then it shrinks. It swells and then it shrinks. And the journey for submission has not been easy, right? Because for me to hold potential power exchange experiences up to such a high level isn't fair for those that are learning themselves, right? Like, for the people that I trust in other aspects of my life.
Right.
I want to create the space for them to grow so that I can trust them in doing these things to me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's been part of my journey for the last 4 years, 3 or 4 years, is really opening up these doors of understanding who am I as a submissive, but also what the different levels of the mind frame and experiences are. Like, I've experienced subspace twice in all these years, right? And both of them came through sensual touch. One was from a male slave who he was lightly touching me, and I was on a massage table, and I felt my face falling through the hole in the massage table. It was wild. I grabbed him. I said, Michael, don't go anywhere. Right? I got scared.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've never experienced, and I envy that, right? I envy the submissive who can experience subspace, because I don't know that freedom.
Yeah.
It's painful to a degree, right? Because it seems so peaceful. It seems so tranquil, and I can help get you there. But I've never experienced it to that degree.
Yeah.
Right? So
it takes trust.
It takes a lot of trust. So after I fell through the massage table, right, I cut that one short. Then there was another one, actually. The second time, my partner, she was spanking me. Right? And I was averse to spanking for a long fucking time, because I just hate people spanking my butt. The good game shit in school, I wanted to fucking punch people in the face, or don't even slap my butt. Why are you touching me? Right?
Yeah.
Like, don't even fucking think about touching my butt. Right? So we were getting into it, and she was spanking me. And in my mind, I was somewhere else. I said, ooh, take off your clothes. And she said, my clothes are already off. And at that moment, I realized I was somewhere else. I believe we are all switches, right? I believe dominance and submission require a certain level of trust with the person sitting in front of us. Mm-hmm. And there's a natural level of it.
Yeah. And I mean, variety is the spice of life, right? I feel like people who stick to only one or the other aren't exploring one whole ass side of themselves. Because I feel the same way. I think everybody's a switch. Like, we definitely have our preferences and our places where we're comfortable, but I think it's nice to get out of our comfort zone.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, because my comfort is, I'd have to think about that, actually. Right? Because there's, where would I be comfortable as opposed to where am I at? Right. And believe me, there's days that I wish my partner, and I'm gonna say primary, I hate fucking hierarchy, but
I know,
for argument's sake, right, for conversational sake, primary, right, relationship. I hope sometimes days I wish I wake up and she has directions for me. Yeah. Get this done. Right? This is what we need done today. Boom, no question. Like, yes, ma'am. I'll do it. Right? She's my mommy. In our power exchange, there's a caretaker, caretakee. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm a little boy to her, right? And it's, but I'm also the strength in the relationship. Yeah. Right. She's here. Right. I'm here. Right. I can move rocks.
For listeners, he's pointing. She's here up at his head, and he's his bicep muscle.
Yeah. Sorry. So, and I've expressed it to her. I would love for you to take the lead. Just lead me, guide me. Yeah. Because I work best that way. I'm the guy. I was in law enforcement for a period of time, and I just wanted to be given my orders for the day, and just let me go on and do them. Right? If it's transporting people, if it's presenting in court, if it's going to the range, whatever, just tell me what I need to do. I'm like a hammer to the nail. Bam, bam, bam. Yes. Quick and easy, black and white. But the way life has played out up until this point, I've had to lead more than follow. Yeah. Because I've had to create my own safe spaces. I've had to create my own journey, right? And all too often we leave the driver's seat up to others for our own journey. Yeah. And I couldn't have that, right? The first experience, the experience that I had that really turned that over was I went to a queer event when they were just starting here in New York years ago, a queer fetish event. And I showed up hetero, cis male representative, right? And this is how I'm comfortable walking around. Right? When I get to a venue, when I got to the venue, I was getting a lot of cold shoulders, and I just was made to feel real uneasy. And I hung out there for a couple hours, then we left. And what bothered me was, what if I was someone who was just coming out for the first time, right? And in my bag, I had a change of clothes, right, for a more feminine expression. But you just shut me out because I walked through the door not fitting your description, right? Not fitting your preference. And you've alienated my experience, my ability, my potential to open this door that can change my life forever. It was very heartbreaking, very disheartening to experience that in a community that's supposed to be supportive of our journeys, right? So, creating my own space, I ended up hosting my own events with my then girlfriend to create a space that was accessible and acceptable for everyone. That's not an asshole. Right?
Yes.
Like, don't be a dick. You can come in, just don't be a dick. If you're a dick, you got to go. Right?
It's a great rule.
But feeling safe also is something that, when it comes to roles, right? Why are there so many male dominants out there? Right? If you boil up, there was a mistress I knew who said, especially on FetLife, most male dominants are submissives who couldn't get laid. Right? So what do? They empower themselves with the role, right, and the knowledge to get what they want. Air quotes, all that in air quotes. Right? If we could just find safety in the people in front of us, so that we can converse openly, right? We can start really digging into our entire being, as opposed to the roles that get us from point A to point B.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like, I mean, I love when my clients can come to me, and most of my clients are cis white men. I love when they can come to me and are like, I'm curious about this fetish, or like, I'm interested in feminization, or like just any of those things where they're exploring their own sexuality. Because I really think that we have an aggression issue in white men. And I really think that if people could explore who they are honestly and openly with the people that they love around them, that we might have less of that.
Oh,
It's a hypothesis.
Usually there was a woman that used to work for my partner. She had a swingers club that it became more fetish prominent after we connected. And she had a woman that used to frequent the venue, and she was from upstate New York. And if anyone doesn't know, New York City is the only larger urban metropolitan area of New York State. New York State wholly is farmland and country, right? So it's like very not New York City. So leading with that, culturally, right, religious white males are out there, abundance of them, right? And she's in the venue, and we're talking, and she's talking about he's assumed the male dom role in the relationship, and they're unhappy, and he's an asshole, and it's like, she's really the dominant one because she makes all the decisions in the house, and she makes the money, and you start stacking up the responsibilities and the dominant roles, hats that she wears, the male starts to feel a lot more insecure. Right. Creating conflict, creating anger and violence, all potential for, right? Because now he has resentment, right? Because I'm the dom, but I'm not shit. Right? Because I'm not making the money, I'm not paying the bills, I'm not cooking the dinner, I'm not keeping the house. She's always mad at me, right? I'm not playing my fucking Call of Duty. And I say that I used to be a video game addict, right? I was putting hours on that shit until I read PlayStation Nation, and I fucking cut that shit out, right? Because we have responsibilities as human beings to socialize with those in our life. Yeah. At least I like to think, right? To a degree. Yes. To a degree. Let's invest with what we have tangible in our life, because that's where experiences are made. Yeah. Right? So anyway, so she's telling me about her problems, and I said, well, what it sounds like is he doesn't want to accept his natural submissive role in the relationship, right? Because society has told him, culture has told him, religious has told him, the man is the head of the household. And so what do we do, right? So she went home and she told him about our conversation. And he messaged me on FetLife, and he was cursing at me via message. And he was saying, how fuck dare you try to X, Y, and Z and disrespect me and stuff like that. So I gave him my phone number. I had him call me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So he calls me, he's fucking fuming on the phone. I said, listen, and I laid it out. I said, this is what I see from where I'm standing. And I've been doing this for a little bit. So just hear me out.
Yeah.
So I lay it all out. I point out all the dominant hats that she wears. I point out his profile, right?
Mm-hmm.
Religious, country, white male, dominance, pressure, right? I said, try this. I said, try not arguing with your wife for 2 weeks and doing as she says. And if you have any complaints, bring up the complaints after you do what she says. Let me know how things change. Sure as shit. He did it 2 weeks and things were magical.
He
right?
did
Because
it.
He did it, right?
Wow.
I had to get a tone with him that was more, I'm going to say assertive, but in a guiding kind of way, right? I wasn't an asshole to him, but I was speaking to him matter of factly.
Right.
Right. And he did it. Now,
well, and you made him feel seen and then gave him a bit of guidance, which is like, that is the approach rather than just, coming at someone or coming for somebody with, how you see them. He felt seen. Yeah.
Yeah. So it worked for a little bit, but then, that shit has to be maintained. That's why you have mentorship, right? Mm-hmm. So that when he starts feeling like he's little again and insignificant and starts to resent, listen, this is what's going on. You push them right along.
Yeah.
But, without some type of guidance or mentorship and commitment to working this system so that everyone is seen and heard and respected, mm-hmm. it's going to fall apart, right? This stuff is not, it's not a switch you turn on and it's done.
Oh, absolutely. That's amazing. I love that he just messaged you and then it turned into a conversation. I almost wished more conversations like that. I mean, not almost. I do wish more conversations like that would happen. I think they're really important because it really stemmed, like, his anger stemmed from shame.
Oh, hugely.
Yeah.
Hugely. And when you boil it all down, right, until we can work past the shame and float in things that we enjoy and that represent us well, that's going to be a battle.
Yeah, I find that shame can be at the root of so many problems. And I think people in the kink community and sex workers and like people taking folks on this like journey of sexual exploration help people to face this shame that maybe they didn't even know they had around things. And I am here for this, like, it's not even like sexual liberation, because I find that when I face something that I've had shame around, whether it's sexually related or not, that I am a more liberated being. That was what attracted to me to like reach out to you when you said like I help, like I guide people through this journey, because I do see it as a journey, and so many people approach it as we're talking about, like the there's a lot of doms, like male doms out there. Yeah, there's a lot of doms out there who approach it from I'm like I don't like how I just said that.
And no, it's funny because it's the cis male dominance.
Yeah.
Right. Because even with the trans men aren't the same.
No.
In the way that, and this is a generalization, aren't the same in the way that the lifestyle is approached, right? Yeah. Because culture and society have raised them differently.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
There's the expectation from the man, right? Yeah. The trans man has had to transition to this point and has had to deal with different experiences in life that will give them a different perspective.
Yeah. So it's like the cis men that approach it from a place of like, yeah.
How many messages do you get a month by dom men looking to submit, right? Yeah. Mistress, I've never done this before, but I'll do it for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, or even just like looking for a sub, and it's just like, that's super common.
Did you not read my profile?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's But yeah, and that style is very much so like there's a lack of aftercare. There's a lack of like truly understanding a person and what it is that they want. One thing you said in our conversations before that I've honestly, like, I can't stop thinking about it is the asking someone how they want to feel rather than like what acts they like.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love that.
So the idea behind that, right, through time, again, through time, learning, and a lot of listening, one of the life and game changing pieces of information that I learned was the approach of wanting to understand the feeling, the desired feeling, as opposed to the desired action, right? So, and again, it's simple when you think about it, but this isn't the approach we're taught to experience our journey with, right? So if I ask you, do you like to be flogged? Yes, I like to be flogged. Hard or soft, right? Stingy or thuddy, right? It's like check, 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 check. But what we don't think about is what type of feelings do you want to elicit? What type of feelings, what do you want to experience emotionally while I'm flogging you? Right?
Yeah.
Do you want it to be a disciplinarian feel? Do you want it to be a sensual, connected feeling? Do you want to feel punished or challenged? Right.
Yeah.
Where and how are we feeling this? Right. Because not only that, right, but I have to interpret what you want to feel with my understanding of how to express that. Right. So how do I dominate a person who wants to be flogged sensually? How do I dominate sensually? And what does that look like for me? Right. How there's a lot that goes on between the two in negotiation or in understanding the other person.
Yeah.
Right. That's why, like, I understand negotiating and vetting for weeks out at a time, and especially if you're going to connect to play, but check in that day, right? Because how you're feeling a week before isn't going to be the same how you feel that day when you walk in through the door.
Right. In the same way, like I could feel more of a dom one day and like more of a sub the next, or even just like months out. Like we change as life goes on, day to day, but also like year to year.
Yeah. Or like, let's say you woke up having a fantastic day. Coffee was on point, your breakfast sandwich, egg McMuffin came out toasty.
Yes.
And then right before you got to your session, you got a ticket. And now you're angry, like, you motherfucker, right? Now you're showing you're not happy and cheery anymore. Maybe so instead of some sensual play, now you need a hard paddling, right, to get that aggression out of you. Right. So understand that we change, and it's not a day-to-day thing, it's a minute-to-minute thing.
Yeah. Very much that. And this is where we're going to leave the conversation for this episode. I hope y'all have enjoyed it so far. It only gets increasingly juicy as we go on. So stick around, stay tuned, listen to the next episode. I know you were going to anyway, but I thought I'd just mention it as an idea. Some of the things we mentioned in this episode are linked in the show notes, including the Why Not Conference, which is a conference for content creators in the adult industry, as well as kinkshop.com. There's a lot of different ways to support this podcast. You can continue to listen. That's great. Love that. You can become a patron on patreon.com/sexygalaxypod, and 50% of those proceeds go to the work of a network of sex workers to excite revolution, or Answer Detroit. You could leave a review, which would be really helpful for my ratings and helping other people find the show. So if you feel so inclined and you're feeling like tippy typing something up that's really nice, please do that. Thank you all for listening. I really love that this is a part of my life. Like, I am so grateful that I get to create this content and that people actually listen to it. It's pretty fantastic. And space facts. When you're moving at the speed of light, you can see all of the colors in the light spectrum all at the same time, and it's like a big queer acid trip. You're welcome. Nanu nanu, motherfuckers.